Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome into another YouTube live show. The Big 12 is open for business. This is Open for Business, Big 12 podcast, the best Big 12 podcast on planet Earth, hosted by yours truly, John Kurtz. I appreciate you all for making some time, making me a part of your evening tonight. Back from Provo, made it back in one piece. A little bit late getting started tonight. Appreciate your patience with that. But here we are. We're going to break down more in depth this weekend and how it fits into the context of the greater college football sphere globally, because that is what struck me as I was taking in everything that happened this weekend, which you're going to hear, if you go listen to anybody nationally, anybody talking about, writing about, whatever it is, what happened in college football this weekend, it's about upsets, craziness. Look at the top 10 right now. Look at the teams that are in it. Look at who lost in the top 10 this Saturday. Texas Tech included in that, right? But there were a ton of upsets. Nobody seems to be a great team out there, right? Like we're lacking the great dominant teams that you used to have, like a Bama or a Georgia. They're good, but not quite the same as what they used to be. I think that's evidence that the Big 12 is effectively infiltrated and taken over the entire college football world. All right, I will explain. Let's break down Texas Tech, because I think with Tech, there are two things that need to happen here. One, don't let Texas Tech off the hook, everybody. Okay. But two, don't let the national narrative about Texas Tech off the hook. Two completely different things there. I saw some complaining from Fongwei already in the chat about the polls. Yeah, Texas Tech dropped like a rock. They dropped 7 spots down to number 14 after losing a game by 4 on the road with their backup quarterback. It's a tough crowd. It's a tough crowd, but you guys know how that crowd goes, man. You guys know how that national media crowd goes. And I've got Big 12 power rankings for you. I mean, I posed the question last night in Provo, like, is BYU the number one team in the Big 12? We'll see if I had a chance to change my mind at all. What are the Big 12 power rankings going to say tonight? This one, I have a feeling, is going to cause a lot of debate, because it is tough. It is tough to decipher your Big 12 power rankings right now. Let me tell you, my friends, because this league is a mess. But the good news is, so is college football at large. So more on that in a moment. As you file in, please do like the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. That is very helpful as well. You can hit me up on Venmo as well, John-Kurtz-4, if you're not watching live. If you are here watching live, welcome. First of all, fill up the chat as much as you would like. But if you want to make sure that your question or comment is on the show tonight, you can submit a super chat. Okay, you submit a super chat by clicking the $sign below the chat box. And of course, all of you, if you're not already, you should be subscribed to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. It's twice a week to your inbox, totally free, ofbnews.com. That is ofbnews.com to get signed up for that, or you can click the link in the description of this video. Either way is totally fine with me. But we've got 5,300 plus, approaching 5,400 Big 12 fan subscribers, twice to your inbox for free. On Venmo, John-Kurtz-4. If you're not watching live, drop me a line, leave me a question or comment there, and I will get to it on the next show. And that is where we start tonight with Gil, as Gil is going to help put a nice exclamation mark on what BYU did yesterday against Utah. Gil says, go BYU. But can you talk about whether the Big 12 title game just got easier with Tech losing to Arizona State? Are there any challengers with Tech now? Well, I don't think anything got easier for anybody. I think this road is like equally as hard and chaotic, basically, for everybody right now. Even BYU, all the praise in the world for them. You'll see if I put them at number 1 in the power rankings later on. Even made the graphic tonight, guys, but their road is very difficult. Like, look at the next 4 games, man. I mean, they've got Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU, and Cincinnati. Like, it is not easy. It is not easy for BYU coming down the home stretch of this thing. So maybe I missed Houston. Is Houston in there too? Basically, it's all contenders that are left on BYU's schedule. So it's not going to be easy for them. It's obviously not going to be easy for Texas Tech now that we've seen that they are capable of being mere mortals, at least if their quarterback situation is not right. So I just think the full scope of this is that we really don't know. TCU, I'll have more to say about the Frogs in a moment, but I watched TCU and TCU fans, like, I get visibly annoyed watching your team. They played pretty well yesterday, but come on, man. You're up 42-21 with the ball with under 4 minutes left. And somehow by the end of that game, Baylor had the ball down 6 with a chance to win. Like, what? There's always some kind of nonsense or shenanigans going on with TCU, yet I see Sonny Dykes talking about, well, we're the winningest program in the league over the last 3.5 years. And I'm like, I mean, I guess that's probably right, but I don't. That's just so emblematic of all of this. Like, who do you trust? Who do you trust? BYU is certainly the most trustworthy so far, as evidenced by their record, but they're going to have to go through a gauntlet here. So I guess, Gil, that's kind of how I analyze it right now. I think everything is still very much up in the air, and I don't think things got easier for anybody on Saturday. Some people may have had a better opportunity arise. Obviously, Arizona State put themselves in a much better opportunity to go play for the Big 12 title, but I don't think anything got easier at all. Let's see. Jared on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4 says Utah's elite defense strikes again. Jared's taking shots. Jared's taking shots at the Utes, man. He's taking shots at the Utes. Appreciate your support, Jared. Gil said, in your recap, can you talk about the defensive end from Utah, John Daly, and see whether he had any stats during the game? He seemed quiet. Go BYU. All right, well, I can look that up. Good old stat broadcast. I love these. For anybody that's covered college football, you know, these stat broadcast sites, like they're so good. I love navigating through these. Daly had 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 TFL. I'm trying to remember. So he sacked. Oh, okay. So he had the sack on Bear Bachmeier on that first drive. And then a tackle later in the game in the second quarter. There you go. That was a kind of awkward looking sack at Bear Bachmeier, if I recall correctly, where he sort of got slung down by his neck. You know, it was a little awkward there. But Gil, I hope that suffices and answers your question. So thank you very much for your support, my friend. Thank you, all of you who do support this channel. You know, this is an interesting one, Sun Deviled Egger, because I think BYU would enjoy getting another crack at Arizona State after being so close last year in that second half, playing poorly in the first half, coming all the way back in the second half. I think BYU would enjoy that matchup. Obviously, you've got some ties there with Sam Levitt as well to BYU. So I think that could be a pretty fun one if we were to get that matchup. But here's the point, guys. For a couple years now, we've been hearing about with this new Big 12. Oh, it's what a cute conference. Lots of parity, no great teams. Like, nobody's actually very good in this league, but a bunch of teams close together, parity, you get close games. You can't trust anybody, wild losses all the time. And it's typically said in like this kind of condescending way. Now all of college football is exactly like the Big 12. All you had to do was wait it out a couple of years, and the entire landscape of college football looks exactly like the Big 12. So what do you have to say now? Everybody who has bestowed that narrative on us right now. Look, the Big 12 is a mess at the moment. It is a mess. I will listen to you if you want to say, hey, if Texas Tech gets Behren Morton healthy, they're still head and shoulders above everybody else in this league. All right, that's great. Behren Morton's been hurt 3 times already this year. There have been 3 different instances of him having an injury. So do we trust Behren Morton being healthy the rest of the year? Do we trust that? Clearly now, you shouldn't listen to me when I give you takes about Will Hammond, because he has come way back down to earth. Can't start fast to save his life. Texas Tech is very much now just jumbled back up in this, right? I talked about BYU already. BYU has been the most consistent. They're the most reliable. They know exactly who they are. BYU is like I was going to say like a nice Camry or something. I don't mean that to be offensive. I drive a Camry. I love Camrys. They'd be like a nice brand new Camry, right? So it's going to be nice. It's going to be reliable. It knows what it is. It's not trying to be a Ferrari, okay? You know what you're going to get there. But you got to go, I don't know what the analogy is with the car. Take it through a crazy obstacle course. I don't know. You got to go through a really tough schedule to end the season. All these different teams. Arizona State's already lost twice. They have no margin for error. Sam Levitt's been hurt. It's jumbled up. TCU has had some high moments, but they're also busy blowing 17-point leads and giving up multiple defensive touchdowns to the other team in a game. You can't really trust any of these teams. It's full-on chaos. It is full-on chaos. But the good news for the Big 12 is you're just mimicking the rest of the college football world right now. I mean, look at what happened this weekend alone. You don't have to go any further than just this weekend. Number 2, Miami lost on Friday to Louisville as a heavy favorite. Carson Beck threw 4 interceptions. Carson Beck is up at the podium throwing receivers under the bus for running the wrong route on one of his interceptions. Bad look. Can't be doing that, my friend. Miami, bit of a mess. Their head coach is Mario Cristobal. He's good at losing games that he should win. Ole Miss, I know it was Georgia. It was on the road. Tough to blame them too much for that, but Ole Miss loses. That's a top 10 team. They're number 5. Texas Tech, talked about them. They lost. LSU is number 10. They lost to Vandy, and Vandy looks like the better team. I mean, significantly the better team. They were favored for a reason. We only have 5 unbeaten Power 4 teams halfway through the season. Like this season is approaching like 2007 levels of zaniness and unpredictability and craziness in terms of who's in the top 10. Remember, 2007 was like your Rutgers, South Florida, Kansas, Missouri. The year where all those teams were in the top 10 having great years. It is typically referenced as like the wildest college football season of all time. I think what we're experiencing now is more like the norm. Like we're just heading into that with the talent more evenly dispersed and distributed in this era of NIL and the transfer portal. I mean, look at the ACC right now. If you want to talk about, hey, other conferences, again, this is the Big 12 takeover, right? The Big 12 has taken over what college football is like. It's no longer just, hey, this cutesy Big 12 conference over here where there's so much parity and you don't know what you're going to get and there are no dominant great teams. Miami, you thought was going to be that in the ACC. On the same weekend, we thought Miami and Texas Tech were 2 instances of, hey, these are 2 teams that are going to just run their leagues. They're dominant. They're so much better than everybody else. They both lost. In the span of 24 hours, they both lost. Florida State's 3-4. Clemson lost again. Dabo, that thing is circling the drain right now. None of those teams, well, Florida State and Clemson, they're not going to make the ACC title game. Right now, Miami wouldn't be in it either if the season ended today. Georgia Tech and Louisville, come on down, right? Virginia, legitimate contender in there this year. That's the state of the ACC. Okay, so yes, some bigger brand names, but what good are Florida State and Clemson doing you this year? And then Miami, who you thought you could trust, it turns out, well, you can't. You can't trust the Canes either. The best team in the SEC, right? Let's go to the SEC, okay? Big bad SEC. Well, first of all, Brent Venables has already been answering questions within the past week about how close every single game in the SEC is. It's where he took his little pot shot at the Big 12. But that's because every game in the SEC is close. You have nobody that can distance themselves from anybody. Texas is in overtime with Kentucky. Mizzou's in overtime with Auburn. Like both of those teams, by the way, should have gotten beat, but it did not happen. The SEC is kind of a meat grinder where you don't know what you're going to get. And all these teams are very close to each other and similar in resources and similar in ability. And that means it's really hard to predict. In other words, exactly what has been said about the new Big 12 for the last couple of years. Big 12 takeover, folks. But the best team in the SEC, that's Alabama, right? They're starting to look like a legit national title contender right now. Guess who they lost to start the year? 3-4 Florida State, right? All the conversation today is about Mike Norvell maybe getting fired. Billy Napier's out. Mike Norvell might not be far behind him. The word today was that Florida State's boosters were all meeting about it, and it sounds like that could happen even this week. Okay, what about the Big Ten, John? All right, fine. We'll go to the Big Ten. Yes, Ohio State does look rock solid atop the college football world as the best team in the land right now, okay? But who's number 2? Literally in the country and in the Big Ten, it's Indiana. Indiana, who just paid, what is it, $90 million for Kurt Signetti? Indiana is number 2. Indiana is going on the road and thumping Oregon. I mean, like handling Oregon. That's the state of college football right now. I got news for you, folks. It's crazy. And so this projection of a narrative onto the Big 12 that was I won't say not fair because it's not like it wasn't totally inaccurate, but the tone in which it was always said with like, oh, this cutesy little conference, it has all this parity because it's really not that good. Well, now let's see an answer for the whole state of the sport for all of this. You know, the gift where it's just like that's the sport right now, man. It's crazy and in a good way. You know, that's the other thing. This is a good thing. I saw a tweet at one point this weekend. I went back to find it. I couldn't. I got to start remembering to like these things or bookmark these tweets so I can come back to them. But it was a tweet from someone who was like, "Hey, this is a take that probably won't be popular, but college football is not in a great spot because we don't have any good teams. None of these teams are actually good. They're losing games." And I thought, well, dude, why do we love college football? We love college football because it is different from the NFL, which is definitely, yes, there are a lot of close games, but generally it's much more predictable in terms of who's going to be good. We like college football because there's so much more zaniness and variability. The fact that Indiana, Georgia Tech, teams like that can be in the top 10 right now. I'm forgetting one too. Vandy, Indiana, Georgia Tech, and Vandy are all in the top 10 right now. That's why we love college football. It is a great thing. And by the way, it's not that none of those teams aren't good, it's that there's not a dominant elite team. You have a lot of good to great teams, there's not a dominant elite team. And I feel like that drives people nuts in this era where everything is either great or it's trash. Buns, whatever, whatever you Gen Zers want to say that drives me nuts. All your lingo. Nobody can just accept, like, hey, there are a bunch of pretty good teams. You're not bad just because you lose a game. We got to recalibrate some expectations and adjust to what the sport is now, which is that teams are going to suffer more losses. And this Big 12 fans need to realize this, but so do fans across the entire country, across the entire sport. Your team's going to lose more games. The talent is too spread out. That's just the way that it's going to go. We're getting a more expanded playoff. It's probably going to expand even more. It's moving toward that, and that's going to give you more grace to lose games. We may not like it. I mean, I certainly don't like it. I liked the way that it was 10, 15, 20 years ago in college football, where it's like, hey, man, every game matters so much. One regular season loss can totally derail you. That was another thing that made the sport unique. We're moving away from that, and you got to recalibrate, man. You got to recalibrate and adjust your expectations, because right now we're just getting everybody reacting in crazy ways. Like, oh, we'll pay James Franklin $50 million to go away. Florida State, according to Pete Nakos of On3, the total price tag for getting rid of Mike Norvell, his staff, and then hiring a new staff, they ballpark it at around $100 million. It's insane. That's insane. But nobody has any patience for anything anymore. And I'm not, look, Florida State fans, that's not really like a crack against you. I understand how bad it's been. You lost 9 straight ACC games. I get it. Right. But these are wild times that we're living in, unprecedented, frankly, in what college football has been. And I don't think it's changing anytime soon. I don't think Georgia is going to be hoarding second and third string rosters that could still be 9-win SEC teams anymore. I don't think that's going to be the case. All of this, what does it mean for the Big 12 other than, John, it is just funny, yes, to throw this back in the face of everybody who's kind of looked down upon the Big 12 for being a league with a bunch of parity and a bunch of teams that are very evenly matched and evenly resourced. I think this is a world where you feel like the Big 12 has a better shot to compete near the top. I know that I'm kind of doing exactly what I'm saying you shouldn't do now, because saw someone else say, hey, you can't helmet scout as much anymore, as in just look at the logo on the helmet and make a prediction or prognostication based on the game. But let's just say it out loud here. If this is a world where Indiana, Vandy, and Georgia Tech can all be in the top 10, you'd rather have that world for the Big 12 to try and compete in than the old world, where it was just going to be all Texas, Georgia. It's the old world. It wasn't Texas, where it was going to be Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and like nobody else. You get only those brands. No, this is a good thing, not just for the entertainment value, but for the Big 12. So embrace how wild the Big 12 is right now. Embrace how wild the Big 12 feels, and embrace it across college football. Bring more of the Big 12 across. Make college football Big 12 again. I should have just led with that. Make college football Big 12 again. Who's going to make me a hat? Somebody make me a hat. Let's get it in the merch store. Make college football Big 12 again. That's what's happening right now. Okay. That's what's happening right now. Okay. Appreciate you guys. Let me pop in for a couple of super chats here. We'll start with Houston Cougars, Germany. Houston Cougars, Germany. Congrats to your Cougs on another win, my friend. Service Johann, alles gut from Bavaria, Bayern. Houston Cougars are open for business, and we don't take discounts. Also, kudos to Arizona State. Hey, thank you, Houston Cougars, Germany. It's always great to hear from you. Love that. And I love you. You probably get a chance to laugh at me trying to pronounce some of these things that you say, but I love the international flair on the show, and I'm happy. I'm genuinely happy for you. Like Cincinnati fans, Houston fans that have had some rough times in the Big 12 since joining the conference. I am legitimately stoked for you guys with the seasons that you're getting to experience and have right now. Houston Cougars, Germany. I want to make sure that you hear this from me. I said it on Twitter. I think I maybe mentioned it briefly on the live stream from Provo last night. But you need to talk to your children. If you have offspring, Houston Cougars, Germany, talk to your children about a 9-win Houston, because it could happen. It could definitely happen. Houston Cougars, Germany. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the shout out, and congratulations once again. Starter 179 says, look at Texas, barely survived Kentucky, worst team in the SEC. Yeah, that was a disgusting game. And first of all, disgusting game in general. Second of all, disgusting that Kentucky did not win that game, or at least push it to another overtime. Getting stopped at the 1 yard line, the goal line stand there to just let Texas line up and kick the field goal in overtime. Such a letdown. So disappointing. Kentucky, Mark Stoops, come on, man. Come on. Can you do one thing for us, Mark, please? Yeah, frustrating. But to your point, yes, Texas with the second coming of Tim Tebow, according to one Paul Feinbaum at quarterback, Arch Manning. No, Texas can't get it done week in, week out right now. They're struggling as much as anybody on a week-to-week basis trying to beat teams, unless you're Oklahoma, unless you're Brent Venables. So, yes, to that point, that is correct. Let's see. Lewis Doe 8620. SEC overrated. Big 12 being disrespected. Glad you made it back to Lavelle Edwards and BYU Holy War. Yes, it's a great time. I think the SEC, it's like the SEC overrates itself. I feel like we are getting some course correction from like everybody across the country kind of realizing like, oh, okay, like the SEC has a better depth of good teams, but they still don't have the great or dominant team. And I think that's like the difference between like your Paul Feinbaums of the world and people in that corner that still think Georgia and Alabama, maybe even they would be off on Texas this year. Obviously, they got to be out on LSU by this point. But I think most of the college football world is now coming around to, yeah, the SEC doesn't have that. And that's probably just a byproduct of where the sport is at right now. They haven't won the national title in a couple of years. So I'm cool with calling them the best conference. We can't be assuming that they have the over-the-top dominant teams, because they don't anymore. Juan J. Lee, would Tech return to the top 10, assuming beating BYU? Probably. Some of that would depend on, let's see, I'm trying to remember when that game is. Some of that will depend on what happens around them. But Texas Tech before that has Oklahoma State and K-State. So you got, first of all, a couple of weeks and then 2 games. I would say Texas Tech at 14 right now. There's a good chance of that. They would at least be very close. And then beating BYU after that. I guess I was thinking even going into the game, beating BYU after that, depending on what BYU is. But yeah, I think probably so. And then you've got UCF, West Virginia to end the year. I mean, that's the thing for Texas Tech. They have Oklahoma State, UCF, and West Virginia all still left on the schedule. 3 worst teams in the league. They have 2 games, really. And this is not meant to offend, but they have 2 games really that you got to worry about the rest of the year. You got BYU at home. You got to go to K-State. I am under no illusion that K-State would win that game, but that I think is at least one TCU fumbled around and, lost by double digits there. So it's at least something that should be on your radar. Tech also has not beaten K-State very often at all. They got 1 win with Patrick Mahomes. Other than that, they have not, in this post Mike Leach era, had much success at all against K-State. Speaking of Texas Tech, And by the way, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Everybody who's here, appreciate all of you who are. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter as well at ofbnews.com. Let's get to this on Texas Tech. Two things. One, don't let Texas Tech off the hook for what happened this weekend, but don't let the national narrative about Texas Tech off the hook either. Okay? Those two things are very important. They're very different messages, and we need to address all of it after Texas Tech loses to Arizona State. The first thing here is that Texas Tech just needs to learn plenty of lessons. I heard Joey McGuire talking about, like, we'll see now how we react to actually taking some real adversity, getting punched for the first time this year. How will this team react to it? The good news is you're playing Oklahoma State, so I've got to believe that the early returns are going to be Texas Tech responds pretty well. But I mean, this was a bad performance. Like, I know that Texas Tech put together a 3-minute heater late in the game to actually take the lead after just being controlled the entire game by Arizona State. But this was not a good performance. Tech did not play well. It was the lowest offensive output in terms of total yardage since 2023. Some real just head-scratching individual moments. Like, and Joey McGuire, I know, fessed up to this in postgame that it was his fault. But 4th and 6, and you're running a speed option to the short side of the field. Like, what is that call? I know K-State fans were all looking around like, hey, man, first time. We know how that feels, but I did not expect that out of Texas Tech. And Joey said, like, that was he kind of overrode things there, and that was his call. Obviously, the Will Hammond thing is not where I thought it was going to be. He's got growing, maturing, developing to do. They got to figure out some way to get Will Hammond actually going early in a game, because every time he's come in, even the Utah game, it didn't just click like that. It took a couple of drives. Now, he put it into high gear quicker in that game than he did, obviously, in this one against Arizona State. But Kansas, it was a slow start, right? And at one point, I was sitting there saying, Texas Tech's in trouble, right? It got to the point where I even tweeted that. So Will Hammond has not been a fast starter. You got to find some way to help out your young quarterback, get his legs working, scheme something up to make it a little bit easier for him. And it really is not just, it's not even just his legs. It was like the passing game. Everything seemed really difficult. And I'm like, I know Tech has weapons. They've got receivers that can get open. I feel like schematically, they've got to figure something else better out for that, because this time you had more of an idea that it was going to be a Will Hammond game. So lots of lessons to be learned across the board for Texas Tech. I think we're also finding out that Tech, as mighty as they are, as deep as they are with talent, is also susceptible to injury issues. And if they start having a bunch of injury issues, they can be pretty human, much like the rest of everybody else. Terrence Carter Jr., their great tight end, who is tied for the FBS lead in touchdown catches for a tight end. He's on crutches, an ankle issue. Skylar Gill-Howard, we know, is now out for the rest of the regular season. Davion Howard, an offensive guard, was like in and out. Baron Morton with his lingering injury issues. Like, you start taking out some key pieces. One is sort of the death by 1,000 cuts philosophy here or scenario here. It's like you take out one of those guys. Yeah, I mean, they can definitely survive. Skylar Gill-Howard, they've got a whole bevy of defensive linemen, but now you take away a key offensive lineman. Now you take away a tight end. Now you take away Baron Morton, and it's like, okay, well, now you've chipped away at a lot of stuff here. And this team is starting to show some wear and tear. Maybe not to the level of like an Iowa State, which took on a rash of those injuries. Worse. I mean, Iowa State's been hit worse, but took on a rash of those injuries and now doesn't really look like itself. There are some shades of that with Texas Tech here. Now, would it all be fine if Baron Morton were still playing and healthy? Potentially so. But that's part of the issue here. You knew you were rolling the dice with Baron Morton as your QB because that's been his career. He's always been a guy that's been hurt, okay? You knew that going in. And I think they were betting on, hey, we believe in Will Hammond, and I understand why. We've seen what the best of Will Hammond looks like. But they got to figure something else out with that right now because it's stuck in a rut. And so for that, the team, I think, has learned some valuable lessons, but the fans, Tech fans, I promised you I would save some of this for tonight, and I didn't get it to you as in depth last night. But can we say that Tech fans, and look, I'll get to the national media too. I promise. I teased that at the beginning. National media needs to learn some lessons here about Texas Tech and some of the, dropping 7 spots in the polls. I'll get to them. All right. They're not innocent at all here, but Tech fans, can we just level and say this was not a good week online for Texas Tech fans? Like, the amount of unearned arrogance that ballooned because of Tortilla Gate. I know it was a very vocal, probably minority of even the online fan base that took this on, but it was vocal, and it was spreading this attitude of, we are the cash cow in the Big 12. We are the dominant force. What? You can't be personally targeting us. This is stupid. We'll leave. Fine. We'll go to the SEC. As if the SEC invite had just been sitting in the mailbox. Sometimes I'm not always the best at bringing the mail in. The SEC invite had just been sitting in the mailbox forever. And you're like, well, whenever I want to not be lazy, I can just go pull that thing out of the mailbox, open it up, and there it is from good old Greg Sankey. Like, we can just hop over to the SEC. Guys, I think this is like a tale as old as time about ego and humility that we saw play out in front of our very eyes with Texas Tech fans this week. Like, okay, let's slow our roll. I'm not sure that Greg Sankey is going to be overly impressed with losing to a team that got beat 42-10 the week prior. But maybe I'm a little off on what Greg Sankey's sensibilities are these days. Tech, you've got a good team. I understand that when it's been 15 years since you've had a team like this that has the potential to be like double-digit win team, I get how it's like, hey, you get really excited, you get all in, you're already a program, rightfully so, with a chip on its shoulder. I've stuck up for you, I've defended you against some of the crazy accusations, not just from Lance Leipold, but over the years. I'm with you. I get why you have a chip on your shoulder. I get why you're excited about this team. But this is a lesson. This is a lesson in humility. Okay? You got to chill out. Because the most ironic part about it was the way that so many fans were acting there is exactly what a Texas fan would do. It is exactly what Texas did for 15 years while they weren't winning jack squat in the Big 12. They were acting like they had. And Tech fans, you got to go win something first. It was 6 games. I mean, that was eye-opening to me. You let 6 games get to your head that much? It's going to be a dogfight to win the Big 12 championship, Tech fans. It is, okay? And I still believe in you. More on that in a moment. But it's going to be a dogfight to win the Big 12 championship. Let's win one of those before thinking about the SEC or we're too good for this conference. I just chillax, man. Chillax. I've got your back. I like you guys, but that was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. You need to calm down. I'm not trying to quote Taylor Swift, but you need to calm down. But here's the other thing I would say. I will also stand up for Tech and say it's stupid that you dropped 7 spots. 7 spots for losing by 4 with your backup quarterback on the road to a defending conference champion that is now ranked, and I think people understand is still pretty good. Like, Arizona State is still a pretty good team. Sam Leavitt was back. You lost by 1 score on the road with your backup quarterback. You're going to drop 7 spots? That's the Big 12 treatment right there. Like, had this been Alabama, had this been Oregon, right, it would not have been that big of a drop. And so, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a climb back in there. It's you have to work twice as hard to earn respect and credibility when you've got the Big 12 logo beside your name. Unfortunately, we kind of all know that is there. But I'm not giving up on Texas Tech. I don't think anybody should at all. Because Texas Tech still, with Bear and Morton, we've seen the best of Tech is very good. And you can say, hey, they've played nobody. I just told you earlier, I think Houston's going to be a 9-win team. And they not only beat Houston, they clubbed them on a night where I didn't even think Tech was particularly sharp. They kicked, 7 field goals in that game? Tech is still a very good team. I still think they have the highest ceiling of anybody in the conference. And I think if you're a neutral observer of the conference, Tech is still like a best case scenario there. If they can go win the league and then win playoff games, because I think they would have the best chance to win playoff games of anybody here. And if you can do that, that's the best case for the Big 12. And it sort of shows like, hey, if you get the money and you get someone smart in terms of how you distribute it and use it, you can actually go buy your way into the playoff and win playoff games. And in this era, that's good news for everybody. That is absolutely good news for everybody. So I think that you should not count Texas Tech out. Somebody said that yesterday in the chat, like, hey, don't bail on Tech. I'm definitely not. But that was humbling. And it sort of brings you back to like the chip on the shoulder thing for the league. Like we all come full circle, right? And now we all arrive back here at like, hey, I've got a chip on my shoulder. About this conference and how the conference is treated. Texas Tech being the latest example of it here. So that's where I'm at. On it. Like I'm still with you, Tech, but let's rein it in a little bit. Okay. Let's rein it in. And I think that will achieve that. From what I've seen, I saw a lot of Tech fans on Twitter today, like, "Hey guys, yeah, maybe we got a little out over our skis." I think there's some self-awareness, which is good. That's good. Happens to everybody, man. And that's why, like Kim, my friend, we've done this before, man. I get it. You're a Tech fan. You love your squad. I think you're a little sensitive about this. I just did 5 minutes talking about I'm still with you. I love you. Your fans still got a little out over their skis. Just some responsibility here. You guys talked a lot of you know what. I'm going to not curse. Okay. Starts with an S. You guys talked a lot of it at the Big 12, at everybody else in the Big 12 about leaving. It was all over everybody's Twitter feed for the last week. Just for a day, take a little humble pie. You guys had this coming. Okay. But you move on, you fight another day. And by the end of the year, you might win the Big 12, and then it'll be your day to talk again. But if you're going to talk, sometimes you got to take an L, man. So I'm just asking you to take an L every once in a while. I don't feel like you're very good at that. And I'm not saying that I'm good at that, but I think some of the tech corners of the internet need to absorb some of that a bit here. Okay. Or whatever you want to do. I guess text Greg Sankey, Kim. Text Greg Sankey if you're that upset about that segment. Let me know what he says. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. All that stuff really helpful. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Thank you to everybody who does. We're approaching 5,400 subs. 5,400 subs on that. What else do we got? John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to send me a question or comment there. That is a way to get in touch if you're not able to watch this live, because I know not everybody is able to get to this live, and I think I am missing some super chats. I am. Okay. Michael, what's up, Michael? Michael, how's it going, my friend? Michael, missed you yesterday. Michael, I should have thought about that. Yeah, there was actually a part of me that was like, when I was leaving, everything was such a whirlwind at the game, and I'm trying to follow everything, and especially when we had Tech ASU, like, dovetailing right into BYU, I was trying to pay so much attention to that game. Basically, I was like, I should have gone out into the stands or maybe like up on the photo deck to get a better feel for like what the environment felt like, which the K-State game last year I did. And I was actually like out on the concourse for the return, and you could like, feel the damn stadium shaking. So I got a little bit more of that. I should have done that. So yes, that is a regret that I have from the experience yesterday. But obviously the atmosphere was amazing, and it was great to experience it. So Michael, thank you, my friend. I'm glad that I was able to make it as well. Let's see. Aglist, what's up, Alan? Alan says, John, most important game next week in the booth. Time to fortify inventory at the wheel. No game will ever be important for KU as KSU. Rock Chuck Jayhawk Alan. Alan, I like that, man. I feel like that's a hot take for Kansas fans, who most of which I would presume would tell you that Mizzou is the most important game. But Alan, I know how much you love the Big 8/Big 12. Stick to those roots. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not I'm not super optimistic about it. Kansas opened as an early 2-point favorite. I don't know if that line's moved at all, but I saw that was the opening line, at least at like circa this week. It just comes down to like trusting this K-State team to make plays on the road in what will be the most hostile environment that they're going to see this year, and just a bloodthirsty crowd. I have a hard time seeing K-State pulling that out, Alan, but I will say it's been a feat for K-State to even get it down to a 2-point line from where this looked like a month ago it was going to be, when if you would have set the line then, it probably would have been like 10. So they've at least done that. But I think it may be a fun Saturday for you, my friend. So, Alan, appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed the Jayhawks bye week. All right, Starter 179 said Hammond got more carries than Dickey, who had 280 yards rushing the prior game. Bizarre game plan. I think we just tried to copy Utah's game plan. I hadn't even realized that. And there were a couple carries I saw for Jacoby Williams where I do remember being like, man, yeah, wait, hold up. Didn't Dickey just have like the best game of any running back this season in the conference last week? Like, what happened? Pulling this up right now. Shout out to my friend Stat Broadcast. Not a sponsor, could be. Cameron Dickey he had 9 carries for 40 yards. Jacoby Williams, I guess, only had 3. So, yeah, the game plan definitely seemed to be run the quarterback, which I like you're saying, copying Utah's game plan. That's what Utah did, is they ran Devin Dampier 10 times for 120 yards and 3 scores. And so I thought, again, misguided, but I thought, well, Tech's got a quarterback that can run well, Will Hammond. Why not just do that? Apparently Tech, sometimes maybe you don't have to overthink it. Tech thought the same thing and it didn't work. That's where, I would like to have seen just more of an adjustment. It just never felt like Starter 179. You can let me know if you feel the same on this, but it just never felt like there was any curveball, like any other pitch. It was just, hey, the fastball is not here today. The fastball is not working. So I don't have any secondary pitches to mix in right now. I would just think you'd want to be a little more prepared to do that on the fly. It felt like Will Hammond got hung out to dry a bit, I guess, is sort of what I'm getting at. I felt for him. I was like, yeah, I mean, he's struggling a bit. He's not making plays. The interception, that's a ball like he throws kind of behind the receiver. I'm not saying he was sharp or dialed in, but I also felt like he didn't get a whole lot of help from the game plan. So I agree with that. Starter 179. Juan J. Lee says, I'm surprised how unused Micah Hudson is. To be honest, if it were just about his talent, I would be, but it seemed like there was a lot going on there underneath the surface, at least last year. I haven't heard as much about Micah Hudson this year. So from that standpoint, I'm not terribly surprised. Plus, I mean, like Tech's got good weapons out wide. I mean, Coy Aiken, Reggie Virgil. Unfortunately, I mentioned Terrence Carter. I know that's a tight end, but that's another guy who's been having a real impact this year. Like they have a lot of weapons. So I'm not totally shocked by it. And I hope the best for him, and I hope by the end of his career, he's making a big impact. But that was one where I thought when they got him back on the roster this year, I thought that's kind of like, that's a stock. Invest in that, see where it goes in the next couple of years. I was not expecting like that to be like something liquid that you were going to get a bunch of immediate dividends on, Juan J. But just my thoughts. That's as an outsider. Okay. Well, let's go to the power rankings, my friends. Let's go to the power rankings. Texas Tech can lose and still stay in front of Cincinnati and Arizona State, perhaps. Will Texas Tech stay in front of Arizona State? And you guys know the $1 million question here. Is BYU taking over the top spot? That's the Big 12 power rankings this week. Okay, let's get to it. I forgot. I made my graphic. I made my graphic for you all today. Remember, I forgot last 2 times. I think I've been doing it like a total amateur in a Google Doc. I've got the graphic now. Changing all this out while getting rid of this is kind of a nightmare, so bear with me. Hey, look, that actually, I feel like that looks pretty decent. Let's do it like that. West Virginia gets cut off. Mountaineer fans, that is meant as no disrespect to you. I cannot control this. Blame StreamYard, okay? But that was more professional than last time. You see it there. BYU is number 1, okay? BYU is number 1 in the power rankings this week. I think they deserve it based on being an unbeaten and Texas Tech losing, right? So the dominant unbeaten. I understand Cincinnati is still unbeaten in the conference, but the one we perceived as dominant in Texas Tech is now lost. BYU still is unbeaten overall in the league and finally beat a team that I think, I shouldn't say like everybody. You'll find somebody to say, well, Utah is not that good and Devin Dampier, whatever. I think Utah is a pretty good team. And yes, BYU won. They also were about an eyelash away from winning that game by 17 instead of 3. I think Kalani Sitake kind of went for the kill shot on the 4th down go ball to the end zone. And that was meant to be that moment, that emphatic moment. Didn't get it. Devin Dampier marches down. Utah gets a touchdown there. I will say garbage time-ish. Touchdown there. Don't get the onside kick and the game's over. Because of all that, I think BYU has earned the top spot for now. But I'm sticking with Tech at 2. And I know Cincy fans, I'd be mad at me. Okay. I will just say that right now. I'd be mad at me. I know you guys are unbeaten in the conference. I sat here and lauded the wins that you had. Not Kansas. That game impressed me a lot. And then obviously Iowa State impressed me even more. You can say, well, Texas Tech thumped Utah. Well, we thumped Iowa State. And both of those are true. Tech did do it on the road. All right. That's a piece of this. I also just look at the overall roster and what I think Tech has and their ceiling. This is an inexact science, an inexact formula. I would stick with Texas Tech right now at number 2 in the Big 12. I do still think that they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game in Arlington. So right now, I've got Texas Tech there. Cincy, not far behind at 3. And yes, hey, Arizona State did just beat Texas Tech. I understand that. But this is the argument that always happens when people go through and look at top 25s, things of that nature, and they get frustrated and are like, well, wait, hold up. Team X beat Team Y, and you have Team X still ahead of Team. Why do you do that? And it's like, well, because you can't evaluate every single team head-to-head if you're doing a 25-team ranking. You have to take totality of resume and rank it that way. And so doing that here, I did see Arizona State lose 42-10 at Utah. I mean, that is a thing that happened. We can't just strike that from the record. And yes, Sam Levitt didn't play, but the defense got abused. And because of that, I can't ascribe the entire thing to a backup quarterback game there. It was bad. And I think Kenny Dillingham would tell you as much. He did. And he said he made adjustments last week in practice, became much more physical, and that some of that was on him for letting practice become too much a walk in the park. Houston, number 5. Houston continues to creep up there. Look, Houston, I gave you guys the bump over Iowa State, TCU, Utah. Houston's moving up, man. Houston's moving up the power rankings. And very well, like I said, could be 8 or a 9-win team. I'm putting it 9. I think it's a real shot Houston gets to 9. I do not think Houston's going to be Big 12 championship game bound. We've seen how they measure up against the team that I just told you I think is Big 12 title game caliber in Texas Tech. That was a 24-point loss at home. It didn't go very well. Okay. Got beat up. Connor Wegman got beat up. Lines got beat up. Tech was too physical at that point for Houston. Then you get down to this tier's hard. Utah, TCU, Iowa State. What are you doing with all of them? I said it earlier, but TCU, man, I'm glad that TCU won. For TCU fans' sake, you dominated that rivalry recently with Baylor, winning 9 of the last 11, and played very well. I mean, built a 42-21 lead. There are all these weather delays that you're having to battle through. Finally started running the ball. I mean, I will get a round of applause for that. Sonny Dykes decided to run the ball. They almost hit 200 yards, a $197 in the game. Obviously, it makes a big difference having a fully healthy running back room now. But every time I look, TCU is doing something that makes me not trust them. I turned my back after the weather delay to go start heading to the game and focusing on Arizona State, Texas Tech. And I look back and I'm like, TCU, I left you for 2 seconds, man. It's like a dog. You leave the dog for 2 seconds to go to the restroom and you come back out and the entire couch is ripped up. And you're like, how did that happen? It was 42-21 TCU with the ball with under 4 minutes left. And with 30 seconds left to go, it was a 6-point game and Baylor had the ball where they could have driven for the win. TCU, I can't trust you, man. There's too much nonsense and shenanigans happening with Sonny Dykes' team. He can tell me whatever he wants about how they've won 9 of their last 11. Is it 9 of 11 now for TCU overall? Not just in the Baylor series, but they've won. Yeah, it might even be better than that. Where's my TCU note here? TCU's 11. Yeah, they're 11-3 in their last 14. I understand that going back to last year. They did win the game. They're the winningest team, Sonny Dykes made sure to point out, over the league in the last 3.5 years. But you are giving 14 points to K-State, right? K-State with 28 rushing yards, 1 offensive touchdown, and a 2-touchdown lead in the third quarter. You somehow make that scenario happen. You let Baylor climb back in 3 minutes the way that they did, give up an onside kick, all of that to make that way too close. If it's the SMU game last year where you're giving up like 3 non-offensive touchdowns in a game in just different ways, like I don't trust TCU to be a team that's going to carry this through the rest of the year. So anyway, they're at 7 for right now. I mean, Baylor, I say all that. I know you'd look and be like, well, John, you picked Baylor to go to the Big 12 championship game. Can you crack on the Bears a little bit here? Oh, yeah. I'll crack on the Bears a little bit here. Baylor, why is it that it takes you falling behind by 14 to 21 points to just wake up and start playing your best football? How many times have we seen that with Baylor? Down 14 with under 5 to go against SMU. They've been playing from behind that whole game. And then it's like, oh, wait, I guess we got to go now. We got to do this. Flip the switch, turn it on, win the game. K-State, you're down by 14. K-State has the ball in the fourth quarter. And then, oh, wait, hey, I guess we'll take a pick 6. We'll just have Michael Trigg do pull off a Randy Moss drive, one drive that's just him mossing guys 3 straight times. Okay. We'll look like we should be a dominant team, and then we'll go figure out a way to win the game. And here it was like, all right, well, it's a 21-point game late. I guess let's just – the defense will all of a sudden do something, force a fumble, run it back for a touchdown. We'll hit up a quick strike offensive drive, which we can do when Sawyer Robertson gets hot. Oh, we'll recover an onside kick. It's like, Baylor, just do this earlier. Do this early. Don't look lethargic earlier. That's my annoyance with Baylor. I'm seeing a couple, Starter 179 asks, Aranda on the hot seat? And we had Wet Blanket asking about Dave Aranda as well. I'm sure he is. I mean, I'm sure Baylor fans are tired of it. We'll see how this goes the rest of the year. We'll see how this goes the rest of the year. I guess I'll put it that way, because they finished hot. I mean, remember, everybody had fired, not all but fired. Everybody had fired Dave Aranda last year after the Colorado game and the Hail Mary. And they finished red hot and within an eyelash of going to the Big 12 championship game last year. So because of that, I guess I'll wait and see how it all plays out. But hot seat, I think it is totally fair to say hot seat for Aranda, because I think Baylor fans are tired of dealing with this same type of thing every single year. Let me see. Any other things that I think are important here? I mean, poor Arizona is just like 2 plays from being up where Houston's at, basically, but instead they're at 11 because they're not finishing games. Heck of a comeback in a game of runs against Houston on Saturday, but then once you climb the mountain, you get it tied, you give up the long, methodical field goal drive for Houston to win the game. I mean, and to be fair, Houston controlled a greater chunk of that game than Arizona did. You could definitely say, Arizona absolutely should have won the BYU game. They let that one go. They were in it against Houston with an opportunity there. So really probably should have been 1-1 in those two for Arizona. But I do feel for Arizona fans. I feel for Brent Brennan. He seems like a good dude, but I don't know that he has like the killer instinct to get over the hump in late games that are close. I think we're finding that out. Let's talk to Big Lyman 34. What's up, Big Lyman 34? Thank you for your support, my friend. So how many of us Big 12 fans started digging up the old championship predictor sites? Can't be just me, right? Those are great. Whether it's been basketball, I feel like I've used them more for basketball, but also, yes, they do exist for football. Was it an Iowa State fan that created that? Am I just thinking that because of the red and yellow colors? I want to say it was an Iowa State fan that made those. Anyway, shout out to whoever it was, because they are great. They are definitely great. Oh, I should say, look, yeah, West Virginia's in the bottom spot. That's West Virginia. Things aren't going well. I know there's a ton of injuries. not really competitive with UCF. Oklahoma State showed a bit of fight against Cincinnati. All right. That's what was the impetus for me to move them up to 15. You have a pick six late in that game that made the score look a little bit worse than it was. Oklahoma State was fighting. Like, they were in it. They were kind of hanging within 2 scores of Cincinnati for most of the game. I'm seeing more fight out of Oklahoma State right now. So I jockey them up to the 15 spot in the power rankings. There, wet blanket. Let's go. Yes, wet blanket. Let's go indeed. I loved those helmets, by the way. I see your picture there. Love the helmets. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. Is this true? Can't use the site anymore because the Big 12 changed their tiebreakers? Damn. I don't know the validity of this because I have not used one in a minute. Okay, I have not used one in a minute. I can neither confirm nor deny, but that would be rough. That would be rough if so. Okay. Take that out of there. Oh, everybody gets to see my backpack in the background. Nice. All right. I think that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm pretty exhausted, as you might imagine. Late night last night at Lavelle Edwards, but all worth it. Great things. Saw a great football game. And then a travel day today, and I literally just got back into my house about 15 minutes before I started this live stream. So I'm going to go relax for a little bit the rest of this Sunday night. But I appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. All that stuff really helps. I appreciate everybody who does that. I don't think I missed a super chat, did I? No, I don't believe I did. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Like, subscribe, do all those good things. Thank you guys for being here. Fong Wei, my guess for Oklahoma State head coach would still be Zach Robinson right now. But we shall see. We shall see. I don't know how the Falcons are doing. Last time I said that, people were like, have you been paying attention to the Falcons? No, I have not. I watch Chiefs games. That's about all I have the bandwidth for. So anyway, take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night and have a great start to your week. I will talk to you soon.